Hello and welcome to Season 1 of Every Type of Steak, essentially the show where I try to speedrun giving myself gout. In this first season we'll be looking at the classics, the prime cuts, timeless sauces and classic wine pairings. Basically everything you'd expect to see at a standard steakhouse. For this first episode we'll be looking at the Rolls-Royce of steak cuts. The fillet steak with a Bordelaise sauce. Fillet of beef is a muscle from just below the spine towards the back of the cow, and it's a muscle that's rarely used, making it one of the most tender cuts of all. At one end of the muscle is the Chateaubriand, and at the other is the tail. But we're going to be focusing on the centre cut, so the same cut that you'd be using for a beef Wellington. So here I've got a gorgeous dry-aged fillet, and when you're at your butcher, try and look for one with as much marbling as you can. While this cut is extremely tender, it can be lacking in powerful beefy flavour, and so the marbling helps add a richness to the meat. It's also very lean. Here I'm tying some butcher's twine around the meat to help it keep its shape during cooking, but this step is totally optional and just for presentation. I'm also dry brining this steak ahead of time. For more on that technique, please watch the last episode linked in the description below. Crucially, don't forget to give the steak a pat because it's been a very good boy. The Bordelaise sauce isn't a million miles away from the classic pan sauce we made in the last episode. So, for the mise en place, you'll want finely diced shallots, crushed garlic cloves, cubed cold butter and fresh herbs. I've gone for the classic rosemary and thyme. Now for the star of the show and one of my favourite ingredients of all time, bone marrow. You can get some from your butcher, or I just got this one from Waitrose. Now chop your marrow into pieces about ½ inch thick. Don't cut it too finely, or the marrow will dissolve into the sauce. Next you'll need about 1 glass per person of an inexpensive Bordeaux wine. It has to be a Bordeaux to be called a Bordelaise sauce. Don't splurge on this though, we're just using it for the cooking. Now we get some beef stock heating up to a light simmer. Lightly sweat the shallots into some melted butter until translucent, like so. And go in with your wine. Bringing it back to a simmer to cook off the alcohol. Reduce it by about half over medium-low heat, and then add a ladle of beef stock per person. Get this reducing down again to concentrate the flavours and create a gorgeous silky mouthfeel. While this is reducing, it's time to cook our steak. So we've taken our dry brine steak out of the fridge about 1 hour ahead of time to come up to room temperature, patting off the salt from the brine. Season again on both sides with salt, saving the pepper for later so as not to burn. Now add the steak to a smoking hot, lightly oiled skillet. flipping every minute or so over medium-high heat to give it a nice crust. And don't forget to give it a quick blast on the sides as well to get rid of any raw exterior. Once you're a couple of minutes away from your desired internal temperature, reduce the heat to medium and go in with your cold butter, garlic and herbs. And baste away from you. I add my pepper now as well. Because the fillet steak is such a lean and tender cut, I'd also recommend undershooting by one level of doneness. So if you like it medium, aim for medium rare. If you like it rare, go for blue. And if you like it well done, then grow up. Now onto a clean wire rack or chopping board to rest for about 10 minutes. Don't forget to take it out slightly before it's fully cooked to your liking, as it will continue to cook while it rests. I'll use the fond later for my side, where I'll toss some steamed new potatoes in the leftover butter and add some fresh herbs. While the steak rests, it's time to finish our sauce. Over a low heat, add your bone marrow, cook for a minute or so. And don't cook the bone marrow for too long or it will melt into the sauce. And then add a small amount of butter right at the end to give it a really rich sheen. Don't go crazy with the butter in this sauce, as bone marrow is already very rich. Once your butter is incorporated, your sauce is ready. So now it's time to serve onto a heated plate. Classically, you'd want to serve the sauce around the sides of the meat so that you don't hide the natural colour of the steak. And for my sides, I've gone for the herby new potatoes that I tossed in the steak pan, along with some white beans. For the wine pairing, there is really only one style that can go with the Bordelaise sauce, lest you incur the wrath of France and restart the 100 Years' War. It is, of course, a red Bordeaux, aka claret. Be wary that corks tend to become fragile with age and can crumble, much like me. So I'd recommend using a wine key instead of a regular corkscrew. I'd also recommend decanting older wines, as they can throw some sediment. I've stood this bottle upright for a few days to trap the sediment at the bottom of the bottle. And I'm using my phone torch to look into the shoulder of the bottle, gently pouring it until I see the sediment start to hit the edge of the neck. You can then serve as it is from the decanter, or do as I do here and wash the sediment out of the bottle, give it a quick dry, then use a funnel to pour the wine back into the bottle. I'd always recommend trying to look for a label that says Cru Bourgeois, as they tend to be really good value for money. I picked this one up for under £15. Try to go for one with a bit of age on it. This particular bottle is from the legendary 2010 vintage, and 2015 and 16s are in a really sweet spot at the moment as well. Look at that gorgeous colour with slight browning around the rim of the wine from the bottle age. So there you have it, a classic fillet steak with a Bordelaise sauce and a claret. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe for future episodes.